Brian, when it comes to retirement planning, there are really two different phases that we have to consider, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's lots of things we go through in our retirement planning, but I like to kind of concentrate on the accumulation phase versus the distribution phase of our life. Because obviously, when we're younger, we can take more chances, and it's really on us to accumulate enough assets to have a good retirement. But in our retirement, we're less, generally, if we've done a good job leading up to that and we have assets, we're less concerned about how much they're going to grow and my internal rate of return and so forth on high-risk assets, and a lot more concerned about, gee, how much money do we have to spend this year, and can we go on some vacations, and can I, golf at the expensive places or not, and can I go out to the early bird dinner to save some money or not care. We care more about the distribution phase. So the accumulation versus the distribution phase is what this topic is about.
All right, and I've heard the three other phases too. They call them the go-go years, the slow-go years, and then the no-go years. Can you explain those?
Oh yeah, I think the words you used are pretty good at explaining that. Obviously, we have our go-go years, and that's when we're going to be more aggressively invested. We're not as concerned about security and cash flow from our investments when we're working and we're going good. And then the slow-go years is a transition. Maybe it's the retirement years, and some people might say, well, that is that hard cutoff, but often people are retiring when they're 62 and living to be 92. So we worked 30 years, but we're going to be retired 30 years. So there is a transitionary thing in there. A lot of people are working part-time and so forth. So slow-go is kind of that, whatever your age is, it depends on your health as to what years those actually are. I will say there's kind of a universal belief, at least for me, that the no-go years are 80 plus. I don't have a lot of clients over 80 that can spend a lot of money, that really are looking forward to traveling the world or taking up new hobbies that are physical and that kind of thing. So I'd call those the no-go years. And so hopefully you've been able to transition well in your own financial planning and life planning, which is part of this while we're considering these two phases. But we have to also plan for that. We can't just ignore what we're going to live on in our 60s and 70s and 80s. In our early years, we kind of have to plan for having a distribution strategy in place when that time comes.
Brian, let's talk about risk. During the accumulation phase, you've got that superpower time on your side. You can afford to take more risk. But there's a paradigm shift as you age, isn't there?
There is a paradigm shift, and there's also a different kind of risk, because a lot of times we think of risk as, oh, you're taking too many chances. Well, I don't know that's a bad thing in your 20s and 30s and 40s, is to take chances on yourself. I found that to be a good thing in my own life. I think the biggest risk is not taking enough chances during that time in your life and not investing in yourself or in your assets and so forth. And not to, you don't want to, I don't want to find a 35-year-old that says, oh, I'm afraid of the market. I have all my money in a money market and a CD. And well, you're not going to have a lot to live on probably when you're older. You're not going to have a good distribution plan because you were not aggressive enough in your younger years. So you want to be more aggressive. So you need to find an appropriate level of balancing your investments for accumulation versus distribution. And I will say, even in my own life, when I was younger, if you told me I was going to get 20% a year on everything that I had when I was 35 years old, I'd say that's not good enough. But you tell me I'm getting 6% when I get to be in my 60s, I'll say, I'll take it. Sign me up for that. So even our expectations change over time.
Brian, I know that you do plans for people of a variety of ages. Do people's priorities change, what they want in life? Do they really change a lot from the time they're, let's say, 55 till they're 65, 70?
Generally, there is some change, absolutely, across the board. A lot of people, especially the guys, they take longer to change. If they're into grow, 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 they might be doing that till the day they die. And that's just kind of their personality type. But I would say for the most part, yes, you're right. When we're doing financial plans, we ask a lot of questions. And the reason we ask them is I know what you've been doing, but we ask about forward-looking. In the future, what are your concerns? And that's where we start seeing answers that are different from how they've lived, which makes sense because they're older now and they're planning for a different phase of their life. They're planning for the phase where they're not going to be working anymore. They're not going to be adding to the pot new assets and so forth. They're going to be taking from the pot, the distribution phase. So that has to be a critical part of a financial plan, and it helps as somebody going through a financial plan to kind of get their head around that there is a difference between accumulation and distribution phases of your life.
Brian, thanks for telling us more about those distinct phases, accumulation and distribution.